July 15th, 1940. Alton, Illinois. I'm standing outside a hotel room where the tallest man in recorded history just died. His name was Robert Wadlow. 8 feet, 11 inches tall, 490 pounds. He was 22 years old. But here's what they don't tell you. Robert wasn't a medical anomaly. He was the last visible descendant of a bloodline that once ruled the ancient world. The Nephilim, the giants. And I went back to find out what happened to the rest of them. For centuries, newspapers reported discoveries of giant skeletons. 7 feet, 9 feet, 12 feet tall. Skulls with double rows of teeth. Bones that didn't match human proportions. The Smithsonian collected them. Archaeologists documented them. Then they vanished. No museums display them. No textbooks mention them. And when you ask where they went, you get silence. This isn't conspiracy theory. I'm about to show you the proof they tried to bury. 1883, Minnesota. The St. Paul Pioneer Press reports a 10-foot skeleton unearthed from a burial mound. The bones were in a good state of preservation. The femur measured 30 inches. For context, the average human femur is 18 inches. This would make the person nearly 10 feet tall. 1912, Wisconsin. The New York Times runs a front-page story. Giant skeletons found in ancient mound. 7 skeletons, all over 8 feet tall. Skulls with double rows of teeth. The article describes them as belonging to a race that preceded the Indians. The Smithsonian took the bones. They were never seen again. 1923, West Virginia. A team digging a coal mine breaks into an underground chamber. Inside, a 9-foot skeleton sitting upright, surrounded by carved stone tablets with unknown writing. The story makes regional papers. The Smithsonian dispatches a team within days. The chamber was sealed. The tablets disappeared. The newspapers stopped reporting. This wasn't isolated. Nevada, California, Pennsylvania, Tennessee. Across America, the same story repeated. Giant bones found. Smithsonian involved. Evidence vanishes. And here's the pattern nobody talks about. Every discovery happened near ancient mound builder sites. Massive earthworks built thousands of years before Native American tribes arrived. Structures that required engineering knowledge we can't explain. And inside those mounds, giants. The official explanation? Exaggerated reports. Misidentified animal bones, hoaxes. But 1,500 newspapers, across 80 years, all exaggerating the same way. All describing the same anatomical details, elongated skulls, double-rowed teeth, femurs 30 inches long. That's not coincidence. That's a pattern. Which brings me back to Robert Wadlow. Robert was born in 1918 in Alton, Illinois. At birth, he was a normal 8.5 pounds. But by age 5, he was 5 feet 4 inches. By age 10, he was 6 feet 5 inches. By 13, he was 7 feet 4 inches, the tallest Boy Scout in history. His growth never stopped. Doctors called it hyperplasia of the pituitary gland, a tumor causing his body to produce unlimited growth hormone. But here's what they didn't say. Robert's proportions were different from typical gigantism patients. Most people with pituitary gigantism have disproportionate limbs, long arms, short torso, oversized head. Robert was proportional. His hands were 12.75 inches from wrist to fingertip. His shoe size was 37 AA, custom-made because no store sold them. He needed leg braces to walk because his knees couldn't support his weight. Sound familiar? Because it's exactly what archaeologists described when they measured those giant skeletons. Proportional, scaled, human but bigger. Robert died at 22. A blister on his ankle from his leg brace got infected. Sepsis killed him in days. His body couldn't heal itself. Just like the ancient giants, archaeological evidence shows they rarely lived past 40. Their bones couldn't support their weight. Their hearts couldn't pump blood efficiently. They were evolutionarily unsustainable, which is why they went extinct. But here's the question nobody asks. If Robert's condition was a random genetic mutation, why did the same mutation appear in thousands of people across human history? 1850s Ohio giants, 1900s Wisconsin giants, 1920s West Virginia giants, ancient Canaan the Goliath and the Anakim. Ancient Greece, the Titans. Norse mythology, the Jotun. Every ancient culture has giant legends. Every culture describes the same thing. Huge people, proportional bodies, unsustainable biology. What if it's not mythology? What if it's genetic memory? A recessive gene that occasionally activates, like it did in Robert Wadlow, and produces someone who shouldn't exist by modern evolutionary standards? So I did something risky. I traveled back to 1895, right after one of the largest giant skeleton discoveries in American history, Toledo, Ohio. A burial mound containing over 30 skeletons, all between 7 and 9 feet tall. I watched what happened next. The Smithsonian sent a team led by a man named Cyrus Thomas. He was part of the Bureau of Ethnology, the division responsible for collecting Native American artifacts. But his real job? Damage control. I followed him to the excavation site. I watched his team carefully measure, photograph, and catalog every bone. And then I watched them load the skeletons into crates marked Routine Transfer, Washington. Those bones were never displayed, never studied publicly, never mentioned in Smithsonian records after 1896. Here's what you need to understand. In the late 1800s, there was a war happening in American archaeology. Two competing theories about who built the ancient mounds. Theory 1. An advanced pre-Columbian civilization, possibly connected to the biblical Nephilim or ancient Mediterranean cultures, built the mounds thousands of years ago, then disappeared. Theory 2. Native American tribes built the mounds. No mystery, no lost civilization, just indigenous people. The Smithsonian chose Theory 2. Officially, publicly. In 1894, Cyrus Thomas published a report declaring the mounds were definitely built by Native American ancestors. Case closed. But here's the problem. The giant skeletons didn't fit that narrative. If a race of 9-foot-tall people built those mounds, then the official story was wrong. And the Smithsonian had just spent a decade promoting that story. So what did they do? They made the evidence disappear. I'm not speculating. In 1912, there was a legal case, Smithsonian Institution versus Independent Researchers, where former employees testified that the Smithsonian had disposed of thousands of skeletal remains that contradicted established narratives. The Supreme Court ruled in favor of the Smithsonian. Their reason? The institution has the right to curate its collections as it sees fit to support coherent scientific narratives. In other words, they can legally destroy evidence that contradicts their official position. And they did. Thousands of giant bones, skulls, tools, artifacts, all cataloged, then lost in storage, or destroyed outright. By 1920, newspaper reports of giant discoveries stopped. Not because they stopped finding them, because newspapers stopped being allowed to report them. So why hide it? If giant skeletons are real, why suppress the evidence? Because it breaks the narrative. Modern anthropology is built on a timeline. Humans evolved in Africa, migrated across the world, developed agriculture, built civilizations, linear progression, no mysteries, no gaps. But if a race of giants existed, biologically distinct from modern humans, it means there were multiple branches of the human family tree that we don't understand. It means ancient people were interacting with beings we can't explain. It means the biblical accounts of Nephilim might be historical records, not myths. And that opens questions modern science doesn't want to answer. I traveled back to 1895 and watched the Smithsonian bury this evidence. I watched them make a choice: preserve the narrative or preserve the truth. They chose the narrative. And for 130 years, that choice is held. The bones are gone. The photographs are dismissed as hoaxes. The newspaper articles are called exaggerations. And the last giant, Robert Wadlow, died in 1940, taking the final visible proof with him. But the evidence is still out there. Newspaper archives, testimonies, legal records, photographs that survived, and stories, thousands of stories from people who saw the bones before they vanished. The giants existed. They lived alongside humans. They built structures we still can't explain. And then they went extinct, either naturally, or because someone made sure they did. Robert Wadlow's body was buried in a concrete vault to prevent grave robbers. His family wanted to make sure no one could turn him into a circus exhibit after death. But I think there's another reason. I think they knew what he represented. The last genetic echo of something ancient. Something we were supposed to forget. For now, I guess we'll just have to work with what we have. Drop your opinions in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Until next time, stay tuned.